Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about the Altcoin Reckoning. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the holiday sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the one thing I want to say is that I know I haven't been making videos the last few days. As you guys know, I was expecting my fourth child, and now that child has been born. So I'm a little tired and off and on out of it. So forgive me for that. But I do want to continue to make videos. One of the things we've talked about throughout 2022 is that altcoins simply are going to be falling knives. And if you think back throughout this year, every single time we had a counter trend rally or a bear market rally, it might make some argue that buying the dip is a useful strategy. However, I do think that time will show and has shown throughout the entirety of this year that buying the dip on the altcoin market would have been a fairly big mistake. If you take a look at Total 3, which is the altcoin market. So it's basically everything besides Bitcoin and Ethereum. What you'll notice is that it continues to put in new lows. From the high, the Total 3 is down 74%. But what you may notice if you zoom in here, Total 3, again, which is the altcoin market, has been putting in new lows even today, right? Even today. Even though Bitcoin hasn't put at a new low over the last month or so, Ethereum hasn't put at a new low since June, although I do think it will. The altcoin market as a whole continues to push lower. Now, one of the things I've said before, and I'll say it many times, is that in a bear market, just because an altcoin drops 80% does not mean it cannot drop another 80%. This is one of those common misconceptions about crypto, is that the idea of buying the dip. And one of the most common forms of criticism I've received this year would be from people saying, well, why won't you buy altcoins when they're on sale? And my response has been, and will always be, right, during a Bitcoin bear market, you simply do not know what a cheap altcoin is if you joined crypto in 2021. I think you're now getting to the point where you can finally start to understand. But when you started this year out, a lot of people would have never imagined the altcoin market going as low as it has. So what I want to do is I want to take a tour through some of the various altcoins and show you how just sticking on the sidelines has been a much better play than going knee deep into the altcoin market. Okay, so one of the altcoins that I talk about, even on this channel, we talked about it in 2019, we talked about it in 2020. I said back then I thought it was a great buy below 10 cents. I was buying some at 2 cents. One of the first videos on this channel was about Cardano when it was 2 cents. However, I've also said for most of this year that it's just in a bear market, right? And when it's in a bear market, you simply have to know that it's a falling knife, and there's nothing fundamental that's going to change that until the bear market is over. The idiosyncratic risk of a single altcoin is just simply not worth it. And ADA is now down 92%. But during the last bear market, ADA dropped 98%, almost 99% from the all-time high. It gives you just an idea of how bad it got. To put that in perspective, a 98% drop this time, which I'm not saying it necessarily has to go down 98% again, but if it were to go down 98.77%, it would go back down to 4 cents, right? Like that's how bad it got in 2018. Now, if the drop were, say, a mere 94%, let's say a 94 or 95% drop, that still puts ADA at around 15 cents, which seems completely possible given the momentum the bear market has had and given the current macro outlook that we face. Now, that doesn't mean that these prices are going to be realized tomorrow. It could be a month from now, it could be 6 months from now, it could be a year from now. You might argue that the bear market for ADA in 2018 actually ended in December. We still put in a new low in March of 2020. So even though this was the low for a while, it was not the final low before the next bull market began. If you take a look at Solana, this is one I've been very bearish on this year. And one of the things you'll notice, and this kind of puts that theory to the test, of just because an altcoin goes down 80%, which Solana did back in May, does not mean that if you take it measured from that 80% drawdown, it can't go down another 80%. And there it is, right? It can. Solana has now dropped 80% two separate times during this bear market, right? Furthermore, despite two 80% drops, even from that level, it's dropped another 15%, right? So the reason I've continued to make videos throughout 2022 on focus on the say like things like the Bitcoin dominance and the altcoin valuations against the US dollar and the altcoin Bitcoin valuations is because I've been trying to warn you, hey, I've experienced the pain of the altcoin market in bear markets before, and I don't want you to experience that same amount of pain, right? This is simply the main reason. If you think back to Q3, a lot of people were getting excited about the altcoin market once again because it was starting to go back up a little bit. But look, at the end of the day, where did it resolve? It all resolved to the downside, and this has just been simply nothing more than lower high after lower high after lower high. And to assume anything else would have been wrong, right? We've had clear rejections off of the 200-day SMA, showing that the altcoin market remains weak, and also telling us, right, that new lows were eventually coming. And they were, right? Now, we've talked about ADA, we've talked about Solana. We could continue talking about other ones. You could take a look at Polkadot. You'll notice it's also down quite a bit from its all-time high, currently down about 92%. So what's interesting is, you have Polkadot down 92%. You have ADA from its all-time high down about 92%. And you have Solana, poor Solana, right? Solana down almost 97%. There's a big difference between 92 and 97%. Okay, so almost 97% down, Solana is less than $9. If it were 92% down, it would be, $21 or so. So you're talking about a huge drop to go from 92% down to 97% down. It might not feel like it, but it's still a massive drop. Continuing on, you take a look at Avalanche, right? It's now at $11. And it's continuing to simply put in new lows. Again, this is the pain that I tried warning you guys about many, many times. And look, so Avalanche is also down about 92 to 93%. These altcoins simply act as falling knives in a bear market. And attempts to buy them without say some short-term strategy to flip them, which is not my expertise by any stretch of the imagination, but any exercises in buying them, for the most part, has just simply resulted in losses as these altcoins continue to just simply put in lower high after lower high after lower high. So we must be cognizant that in bear markets, altcoins are simply falling knives, and the altcoin reckoning comes for these cryptocurrencies. One of the things that has kept me really bearish on the altcoin market is, of course, the Bitcoin dominance still very low. And it's now at 42%. If you exclude stables, it's something like 48%. But here's the thing. Even though the dominance is still this low, this is what's kept me from buying the altcoins this year, right? This is what has kept me in 2022 from saying, look, guys, I know you like the shiny altcoin objects in a bull market, but in a bear market, they're not your friends, right? Don't marry an altcoin. I recognize the dominance is still low, but I will say this metric is really what's kept me in a large part from buying altcoins. And so far, it's worked out pretty well. And my thesis remains that as long as the dominance stays this low, you should expect, in general, my expectation anyways, maybe you shouldn't expect anything necessarily, but my expectation is that the altcoin market remains a falling knife until the dominance of Bitcoin resolves to the upside. So far, it's worked out. Now, there are a few altcoins that have held up better than most. Matic is one, but it doesn't mean it's not just going to simply roll over in the same way that it did before. Okay, you can see that it's already showing a little sign of weakness here, back below its 200-day SMA. So again, some of these coins, there's always a few that do better than others. It doesn't mean they're going to do the way. This doesn't mean they're going to hold up the entire time, but sometimes they can. If you go take a look at Chainlink, it's been pushing lower recently as well, right? It's near the bottom of this range that it's been at for a long time. And in fact, recently, Link put in a new low for a daily close. In fact, I think this was the lowest daily close that Link has had this bear market, where it closed the day at around $5.67. So what if we what have we really seen this bear market? Well, it shows that patience has been rewarded, right? It has been rewarded. Furthermore, I think patience will continue to be rewarded. If you go take a look at something like the ADA Bitcoin valuation, you might say, well, haven't these altcoins fallen enough? Well, look at the ADA Bitcoin valuation, and you tell me, you saw what happened last bear market. The ADA Bitcoin local bottom in December marked Bitcoin USD's bottom, but ADA's Bitcoin valuation is still a 43% drop from that level. And there's a case to be made that this is simply an oscillator, right? The last move to the downside down here could be when Bitcoin's going up, right? So you could see Bitcoin continue to remain stuck in traffic for a while in Struggle Street, come back down here, the ADA Bitcoin valuation, maybe it bounces and then comes back down this level when Bitcoin's going up. But my point is simply, look, these altcoins remain falling knives, not only on their USD pairs, but also on their Bitcoin pairs. The ADA Bitcoin valuation, we talked about how these higher lows just simply do not hold, right, in bear markets. Eventually we break to the downside. You can see that it's done that once again. If you go take a look at the Solana Bitcoin valuation, you can see that it's actually getting to the lower part of this channel. It's actually fallen below the channel. I mean, Solana just looks like it's an absolute free fall at the moment. I did plenty of videos on altcoins. We had plenty of live streams, even way up here, even way over here as well, where I sat. I think the altcoin market is going to go down a lot. I think we're going to have the Altcoin Reckoning. And I think a lot of altcoins are going to drop 80% multiple times, meaning they're going to drop like 95, 96, 97, 98% or more. It's the cycle of crypto, right? It's the cryptocurrency market cycle. And the truth is a lot of these cryptocurrencies will never return to all-time highs. Now, some of them will. I don't mean to say that none of them will, but it's a fact that not all altcoins will return to their former glory days. They just simply won't. And holding an altcoin bag down 96% in the hopes that they will, good luck. It might work out. It also might just never come back, right? There's a chance that happens. You have to be aware of that chance. And because that's a chance, that's why I've remained fairly clear of the altcoin market this year. If you take a look at the AVAX Bitcoin valuation, you can also see that it's recently broken. It's sort of these lower high structure. Once it breaks, right, it typically resolves well to the downside, right? AVAX Bitcoin is falling, Solana Bitcoin is falling, ADA Bitcoin is falling, etc., right? A lot of these are falling. Now, Ethereum, what's going on with ETH? Well, I turned bearish on the Ether Bitcoin valuation quite publicly right here, okay? And it's interesting because ever since then, ever since that point, we've actually spent a fairly decent amount of that time below that valuation. However, we have poked our head above it a few times, and I would be somewhat, to be completely honest, right, it is holding up better than I thought it would. My thinking here on the Ether Bitcoin valuation is that it still will likely resolve to the downside, and whenever it does, it could mark the end of the bear market for crypto. Okay. If you go take a look over here at the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, we sort of had like a pullback, and then the second pullback here in December that marked the Bitcoin USD bottom, And then this over here was sort of like a Bitcoin bull run. So if the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation were to come back down here, that potentially could mark the Bitcoin USD bottom. And then maybe it bounces like it did back over there in in 2019. And then if it resolves to the downside as well, then that could be sort of the like sort of like the accumulation phase of a lifetime type thing. Like it might be somewhat equatable, right, to like this if something like that were to play out, right? But anyways, I mean, I think that it's also important to remember that in the bull market, Ethereum was actually one of the last ones to see this major move to the upside. Remember that video we made in December of 2020? I think it was the last video I put out in 2020. I said, Ethereum, remember the end of December. And the reason was because Ethereum was trading at like $700. And we were thinking, look, guys, it's probably going to break out to the upside in a massive way. And the Bitcoin dominance is likely going to go down a lot. And that's actually what happened, right? Bitcoin dominance went down. Ethereum Bitcoin broke out. Ethereum USD broke out to the upside. But a lot of people in this phase over here in January, February, and March were trading their ETH for altcoins because they were chasing the altcoin gains. Remember? But I said, no. Ethereum tsunami is usually the last thing to come. So it's normally better to trade your altcoins for ETH that late into the bull market. And you get that ETH tsunami where you go up about 2x in 2 weeks. We got it, right? We went from like, 2,000 to 4,000 or so within a couple of weeks. And so, of course, the rest is history. But in the same way that Ethereum was the last to really see that final rise, it could be the last to fall, right? And it might not be the last to fall. It just could be the last one to finally have its major drop from these higher prices. A lot of altcoins are already well below, anywhere where they were at during the bull market. If you take a look at the Ethereum valuation on its USD pair, I would still argue that there's still room here for it to resolve to the downside, for the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation to go down, for the Bitcoin dominance to go up. My hope this year in 2022 is that my constant discussions about the altcoin market and about the altcoin reckoning and about how if you want to buy an altcoin in 2022, it's probably better off to take a cold shower and reconsider, and cash is king. Hopefully these points have not fallen on deaf ears this year, and I do hope that it saves some people from losing money. And again, one of the things to remember is that it's not necessarily that complicated to have foreseen a lot of this stuff with the altcoin market. It's just simply you have to live it a couple times. And once you live it a couple times, you see the same thing play out, right? Where everyone shills their favorite altcoins all the way down. They keep telling you to buy the dip. Once these people stop telling you to buy the dip, right, and they finally capitulate, that's when the bottom's in, right? If you're asking me if the bottom is in on the altcoin market, I'm afraid my answer is going to have to remain unchanged and say probably not. But once the perma bulls capitulate, usually it can take 95% down, somewhere between, say, for the altcoin market, it's usually somewhere between like 95 to 99% down is what it takes for a lot of these perma bulls to finally capitulate. And then once they do, the cycle can begin anew as we sort of purge all the garbage from the space, and it ultimately does make the cryptocurrency asset class stronger going into the next market cycle. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribed, give the video a thumbs up. And the last thing I want to say is if you're watching this video and you're still holding on to a ton of altcoins and you're wondering what you should do, first of all, I don't offer financial advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If I think the time to take action would have been a year ago, 9 months ago, even 8 months ago, 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, right? But taking action the further we get into a bear market is risky business, okay? I mean, as much as I think the altcoin market will continue to drop, you don't end up wanting to be the schmuck that's the capitulation candle, right? So sometimes it's worth, just learn the lesson, right? You learned your lesson. Hopefully you're a better investor in the future for it. And hopefully you can avoid future altcoin reckonings. We'll continue to monitor the altcoin reckoning that's underway right now, and and we'll come out of it eventually. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe. Remember to check out the holiday sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. See you guys next time. Bye.